And, he said that he, just a year ago, thought that Judge Napolitano was kind of crazy. Now he totally agrees with him. And we know Napolitano's on board with liberty. He came out and said that 9/11, what we know of 9/11 is a lie, and that it will be seen in the history books, just like the JFK assassination, as a fraud. And the article continues. And we've asked the question time and time again, but to no real answer. If Beck continues to talk like this, will Fox News allow him to stay on the air? Or is the whole thing all part of a revelation of the method process? Beck is on the verge of going head-to-head with the same military-industrial complex that will enforce any martial law scenario, the same entity that finds and controls and the corporate media, which provides Beck with his platform. This dichotomy seems incontrovertible, but it's certainly going to be interesting to see how such a seemingly discordant conflict plays out in the long run. And I'm glad that Michael Braverman is here, because everything that we cover in the incredible police state FEMA camp episode of November 12th, now Beck, 2 years after saying there's no plan to arrest Americans by the military, is now coming out and admitting it. So why does he get to talk about it, Michael? But the episode of Police State's gone.
Well, I tell you, it's amazing about it's amazing about Beck and how he kind of flip-flops. But I think what's happening is people are beginning to see the light, Alex, and you've been, out there kind of screaming in the wilderness for all these years. And I just want to say one thing about the police state before we move on. And this, again, I always talk to you and we always, kind of get into things. And what I always say to your listeners and to people, don't take my word for it. Don't take Alex's word for it. Go on your computer, hit Google, and hit the words I'm going to tell you, and you'll see it. It comes up. And one of the things that really struck me, and then we can move on to the Gulf oil conspiracy, but the thing that really struck me was I went to the Missouri Fusion Center. Remember, we talked about the fusion centers. It's called the Missouri Intelligence Analysis Center, MEAC. And you can go right on, you can look at their thing, and right in the MEAC website, you will see a thing about how to identify a domestic terrorist. And it goes on, and it talks about a bunch of stuff. And again, this is written by a bunch of, probably moronic bureaucrats, sitting in a room very proud of themselves. But here's what they say. Sometimes domestic terrorists can be identified by the third-party affiliation that they have. Look for Ron Paul stickers on cars. It's right there in black and white. Generally, people carrying around the movie Zeitgeist might be people you want to look in. You might want to check into. Oh, and by the way, anybody who attacks the Federal Reserve, you might want to kind of snoop on them too. And one last group of dangerous desperados is out there that we really need to spy on. And that group, conspiracy theorists.
Well, that's what Cass Sunstein at the White House says. He says arrest people, fine people who criticize the government. Now we have the FCC commissioner coming out and saying that freedom of speech in the media was an aberration, and that the government's going to decide, just like in East Germany, what we're going to see. I mean, this is really happening, and the ruling class knows the people are waking up, and so Glenn Beck and others cannot ignore the real audience anymore.
Sure, because people see it. Again, you can go on the internet, you can see it, you can see what these guys did. And then then when a bunch of public outcry happened in Missouri, then of course they pulled it and they said, no, we didn't really mean that. No. We were just kidding. We didn't really mean that. That was just an internal document.
But we have hundreds of other federally written documents that mirror that. I mean, this is all written by the feds, and now they admit, quote, domestic extremists are the #1 threat. It's not the foreign turbaned men.
That's right.
From the caves. No, now it's that returning veteran.
That's right. And, people who think, it's just a bunch of conspiracy theorists and a bunch of nuts, just ask yourself, let's say you like Ron Paul. And let's say you put a Ron Paul sticker on your car, and you drive around with your Ron Paul sticker, and, oh, by the way, maybe you have a couple books on the Federal Reserve in your car. You have automatically branded yourself a target just because you exercise your right to free speech, your right to political expression, and you stuck a Ron Paul sticker on your car. Now, me, again, I always say, Alex, I come to this, I'm an agnostic, and I kind of come to this, I came to this with an open mind, and, there's certain things that, we may disagree on, and there's certain things I think really don't pan out. This one does. It's right there. And I don't want to live in a country where if I put a political sticker on my car, I mean, maybe I'm going to support the Green Party. Maybe I'm going to support the Peace and Freedom Party. Maybe I'm going to support, the Alex Jones Party.
Well, that's what's happening is the ruling class, the private Federal Reserve that's stolen trillions of dollars and won't tell Congress where the money is, they're threatened by us going out, speaking to fellow citizens, creating political movements, and taking our nation back peacefully. I mean, it is we the people, right? But now we see that Homeland Security is pointed at peaceful political movements, and they want to create a chilling effect, but it's not working. Boehner, the congressman, tried to block Ron Paul becoming the head of the oversight committee that controls the Federal Reserve. Ron Paul's somebody who wants to abolish the Federal Reserve. He's now the chairman of that committee. We run this country, and if we want to get the private Federal Reserve out of our nation and abolish it, instead of it being the second largest owner of our debt, it's our right to do it, and it's in the Constitution that the Congress should control the issuance of currency and credit, not some private banking consortium. And here's Bloomberg today. Ron Paul, author of In the Fed, to lead panel overseeing central bank. So it's our country. We're taking the states back. We're taking the federal government back. We're not extremists. We're Americans. We're the majority. We have the common sense. And these foreign corporations that have come in and taken over our government and sucked it dry of corporate welfare and that are bankrupting our country, they're going to be brought to justice through the political system. And that's why the establishment stages terror attacks. It's why they engage in all this demonization, is because they want to play the part of the good guys protecting us from ourselves. They want to train us that the citizens are bad, that the citizens are the enemy. Now, Michael, I want to shift gears in the time we have today, and I want to thank you for coming on with us, and I want to thank you for involving me in the first season and the second season. I'm really proud of the show. I think the second season is even more powerful with the JFK deathbed confession of E. Howard Hunt. There's the smoking gun, with going out and proving the fusion centers, the FEMA camps, the legislation, putting the congressman on the hot seat and him melting down. I mean, incredible Perry Mason type, moments here. And talking to the crew, a lot of you believe this is the big sleeper, the stuff that we discovered in the Gulf. Tell us as much as you can about what's coming up tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central on TruTV.
You got it. Well, the first thing I'm going to say is I want everyone to just think about this, and you'll understand where I'm going in 1 second. The largest single industry in terms of dollar value in the world, by far, is the oil business. And if you take it all in composite, the refining, the drilling, the ancillary products, the infrastructure, all that stuff, it is the largest single business in the world. Now, people say, well, how much is the oil business worth? Well, the answer is you can't calculate it. It's quite literally, what's that word, incalculable, because it is so rich, it is so powerful, it is so, its tentacles spread so completely.
And our entire civilization is based on it, and the distillates are the plastics, the cars, the composites, the televisions.
You cannot calculate how much money they have. So, as Jesse always says, and as a lot of other smart people say, follow the money. The last estimate I heard about the wealth of the oil business was $60 trillion. That's a trillion with a T. So if you got $60 trillion, it ain't hard to spend a couple of $1 billion, spread it around. You can cover up a lot of stuff. You can buy a lot of politicians with a couple of spare billions. So that's how you want to start. That's how I want to start this. And if you put that frame around it, and you understand that we're not talking about millions. Millions is chump change. We're talking about billions. We're talking about spare billions to just throw around and spread around and buy whatever you need to buy. Okay, that takes us to the Gulf conspiracy. Now, here's BP, foreign corporation, worth a huge amount of dough. It's almost impossible to figure out what their profits are because of all the foreign holdings and the foreign holding companies, just like the whole rest of the oil business. These companies, as we've said before in this show, they have no loyalty to any country. They have no national loyalty. They have one loyalty, and that is to themselves and to the elites. So now you see, okay, here's this rig in the Gulf, and it blows up, and it's a human tragedy. 7 people died, 27 are injured. 11 people died. 27 are injured. It's a horrible thing. I don't want to get into whether it was an accident. I don't want to get into whether it was planned, although I have my opinions about that, which I will discuss. But here's what I want to get into. I want to get into the reality, the facts. The facts are that Halliburton was a partner on that well. There are 3 partners, Transocean, BP, and Halliburton. Halliburton does all the the drilling fluids, and they cement the well and all that other stuff. Okay. 12 days before this well blew, 12 days, Halliburton went out and bought on the public market a company called Boots and Coots, which is this famous company founded by Red Adair, the guy who put out the oil fires in Iraq. And what these guys do is they go out and they put out oil fires and they clean up oil disasters. So, 12 days, they buy the company. 12 days later, the rig explodes in the Gulf of Mexico. Who gets the job to clean it up and put out the fire? Not hard to figure this one out. Boots and Coots. So what you have is you have these companies, these giant globe-spanning multinational companies. They make it coming and they make it going. And that's what people have to realize. They make it coming and going. They've got the game rigged. They got the system, set up. So they went out and buy this company. Now, does that mean that they knew the rig was going to explode? I have a lot of people on this show tonight at 10 o'clock who will say yes. They knew it. It was deliberate. The explosion of the rig, the BP rig, was deliberate.
But regardless, we also know they then lied and said core exit isn't dangerous. That's covered. They lied and said 70% of the oil's cleaned up when it wasn't. I mean, then they block the states and locales from being able to protect their shores. I mean, this is crazy.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's talk about correction for a second, because, Alex, this is where you'll see tonight, and your listeners will see tonight that you have a big part of this show because you actually gave us the tip about Corexit. And I'll talk about it really briefly because it's just another example of this unbelievable, colossal corruption that if you wrote it in a novel, no one would believe it. Corexit 9500, as Alex, you gave us this information, is a very, very toxic dispersant. But it doesn't disperse anything. What it does is it breaks up the oil. I guess technically it does. It breaks up the oil into these little micro droplets.
It makes it stop floating. Yeah,
right. It stops floating. These little micro droplets sink to the bottom of the ocean, where, of course, they're going to the ecosystem. But everyone goes, hey, the oil's gone. It's all dispersed. But Corexit 9500 is incredibly toxic. I could read you the list of chemicals. Again, this is all on the internet. Cadmium, chromium, arsenic, you name it. And, Alex, you gave us the blockbuster of all. And I don't even know if I want to give it away, but it has to do with the Exxon Valdez oil spill 20 years ago and what happened to those cleanup workers because they used Corexit.
And by the way, I mean, the show is under pressure, may not be on next year. This potentially might not air tonight. I mean, they're not going to like what's about to air tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern. Stay with us. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, it's Christmas, and we can guarantee you'll get your orders before Christmas if you order them by the 17th. That's 7 days from now or next Friday. Technically, most people will get it even USPS. You'll get it UPS guaranteed if you order it on the 20th, that Monday or Tuesday. But I wouldn't wait. Get your orders in. You can get 5 of my films for $24.95. That's less than $5 a piece. 5 of my top films, the Alex Jones collection. A great gift. People are ready to see the truth now. All available at Infowars.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139. And your purchase of the books, the videos, the T-shirts, everything that we've produced and carry, or the other great books and videos we sell, makes this broadcast possible. And think of how we are really the very tip of the spear and are having a huge effect thanks to you supporting us and spreading the word. So again, Infowars.com for the online video bookstore. Be sure and check out all the ball caps and T-shirts. Your purchase supports us, but also then you're a walking billboard for liberty and freedom. You'll meet like-minded people. Infowars.com.